Hi, this is Aaron with Zollotech. Today we have a comparison between the MacBook and the iPad. I figured we'd give you a real-world comparison and what you can do and size and that sort of thing. So here's the iPad, obviously, and this is a 13-inch MacBook, or what the new MacBook Pro looks like. They changed the name and added a couple features, that sort of thing. So basically your 13-inch MacBook. So here's the iPad, and here's the MacBook Pro, 13-inch. So as you can see, here's your CD drive or DVD drive slot, and I guess to hold this in the same sort of orientation would be more like this, your volume switch, your rotation hold. But here's just to give you an idea of size. We have the MacBook. You can see there's probably a couple inches here, and there's a good amount of inches. Let me set this down. I don't want to rub these together too much. Let's take a look. So you can see the MacBooks or the iPads all the way to the bottom, and there's the top and the side. In the thickness comparison, you can see MacBook versus iPad. iPad's obviously quite thin. It's about a ½ an inch. So screen-wise, if we open the MacBook up, you're talking about the iPad's a little bit thicker than the actual screen on the MacBook. So let's bring this a little bit closer. So here we have, obviously, on the MacBook, we have a keyboard. And on the other side, we have our trackpad, but on the other side we have all our different ports. The iPad does not have any ports other than the standard dock connector that you use to sync things through. You do have a headphone jack out on the top, and that little hole here, the pinhole, is a microphone. You have the hold or sleep-wake button, your volume rocker, and your rotational hold. That's it. On the bottom, you've got your dock connector and the speaker. So on this, obviously, you've got a lot more ports. You have some USB. We've just got the MacBook upside down power, Ethernet, USB, mini display port, microphone in and out, and an IR port, and your battery indicator. So obviously, you're going to get a lot more with your MacBook as far as I/O and input-output stuff. As far as battery life, though, this is the old one. You get about 4 hours. I generally get about 3 running everything. This, easily 10, a little bit more or less, depending on what you're doing. If you're using a lot of Wi-Fi, you're going to get a little bit different. They both have Wi-Fi, B, G, and N, both of them. And obviously you have your DVD drive, like I said before, where you can watch movies through that. You don't need that with this once you sync through it. So, as far as input, let's go ahead and open this. And obviously you're going to have a trackpad. And, sorry, this keeps moving a little bit. You're going to have a trackpad, and you're going to have your keyboard, and then your screen, of course, your 13-inch screen. So, just to compare keyboard sizes, let's go ahead and open this. I guess we'll go ahead and open Pages and give you the keyboard here. It's going to take a second to open. This is just a thank you card app. There we go. So there's our keyboard. So let's compare that. So you can see on the top we've got our keyboard on the iPad. Oh, let's touch that again. So on the top we have our keyboard on the iPad. On the bottom you have your keyboard on your MacBook, standard MacBook keyboard. You can see if we put it over to the right here, that's about even. So it's not quite as big, but you do have some pretty decent real estate to type on. Obviously you don't see the number keys. To get to that on the iPad you have to tap this button. But not bad. One button. So on the MacBook, obviously you have all the input, you have your trackpad, and you can do a lot of things. Now the question I get is, isn't this more like an iPod? Well, it is, but it's also with Pages and a couple other things, you can do similar things to the MacBook. So what you can do is, I get this question a lot actually. So obviously you can consume all of your media. You can do that through iTunes on the MacBook, but you can consume all your media, your photos, your videos, your iPod, your mail, your apps. Obviously there's over 170,000 apps right now. I don't know how many applications or software applications there are for the MacBook, but there's a good amount. Don't know if it's actually 170,000. It probably is at some point, but a lot of those are not as easy to use. obviously some limitations with the iPad. So first let's cover Safari. Safari on the MacBook, you're going to get Flash, full support of the internet stuff. Here you're not going to get Flash. So you're going to have to rely on H.264, HTML5 stuff, or anything encoded in HTML5. I didn't mean H.264 necessarily. But so for everything like your normal web pages, it's going to work. When you go to YouTube, you're going to have to use the YouTube specific app on here. It will play in the browser through its own little connection to the app. On the MacBook, obviously, you can use any browser you want. On the iPad, you cannot. So that said, not a problem for most sites, but when you go to sites that are heavy on Flash, like maybe your kids' sites, or Hulu would be a great example. No Hulu app yet, so we're out of luck for Hulu. Safari, though, otherwise is a good browsing experience. Looks great on here and works well. Mail app works pretty much the same. Nice and easy between the two. So you can do all that. Your photos, your videos. Your photos are better on the iPad, I believe. You just cannot do any editing within the photo app. Videos, about the same, just a little bit different screen. Your iPod, I think iPod works better in here. Now, as far as your consumption stuff or creation stuff, you've got Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. I only have Pages on here at the time, but you can create from here. You can import documents. The problem is you can import them through email, but if you have a document on your laptop and you want to get it here, you have to use iTunes to import it. So that could be a bit of a problem. But you can always email them to yourself, which isn't a problem. If you want to print, you can't just print through here. But you can create all of your documents on here, export in Word, email them to yourself, go print. Like if you're a student, you could go send it to your email, go to a computer lab, print it. Hopefully soon, maybe even tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching this video, we may have that printing support, but as of right now, with the early release of the iPad, we do not. The Pages app, like I said, is great. You can create all your content. You can type on here. If you want, you can get the keyboard dock, which you dock in portrait mode. Dock that. You've got the keyboard. Works fine, works well, or you could use a Bluetooth keyboard with it. For book reading, you've got iBooks here. On the MacBook, obviously you could read books on it, but you're not going to get the same experience with the page swipe like you've got here. You're not going to have the same experience that way. You're not going to have access to everything the same way in the same ease. Obviously on the iPad you're going to have the whole app store for whatever you want, all these different apps you can buy or download free depending on what they are. So that's a plus for the iPad, I would say. Overall, it is an iPod with some creation devices built in. I think you could solely get away with using this if you were a student and you didn't have a laptop. The problem is initially you're going to have to sync it to that laptop or a computer at home or something like that. Once you've done that, though, unless you want to get movies from a DVD, which you're not really technically supposed to do, you want to download movies via iTunes, you can do that. It's not a problem. So there are some, this is a different category, but as far as comparison with a MacBook, in a way it's not quite the same thing, and in some ways it is. Is this a replacement for the MacBook? Not really, but portability and book-wise for maybe a student or someone on the go, it's going to be fantastic. And you can check out my review for what I think on it. It does have some limitations like Flash, like I mentioned, but it has some things like 3G when that comes out. This one is the Wi-Fi version, but when the 3G comes out, you can surf on the go no matter where you are, where you'd have to get a separate modem for your MacBook to do that, and it's a little extra bulk. So really, in comparison, you've got the size here. Screens are great compared to each other. Obviously, the MacBook doesn't have a touch screen. Battery life is phenomenal on the iPad. That's a big win for the iPad. Sound quality between the two, I would actually say the iPad sound chip sounds better. Even my iPhone, I'd say, sounds better than the MacBook, and I'm not sure why that is, but that's my personal experience. Whatever audio card they're using between the two. But overall, yeah, I'd say there's not really a win comparison. They're kind of different categories, but to give you a different general idea, if you haven't had your hands on one, what the size and its capabilities. Check out the in-depth reviews that I've been doing if you want a little more information on some of these different apps. This is Aaron with Zollotech. We'll see you next time.